the website now.
Yeah, for the website for your repository.
Yeah.
Click on pull requests.
Low one there.
Yep, and then click on feedback. And that's the URL. Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday. I got stuck on the freeway here. Things were great until two trucks crashed. Well, thankfully it wasn't too bad. They just stopped, blocked off two-thirds of the lanes. Well, we're getting a little bit of a late start. Alrighty. See who's around here. Hey, happy Thursday. All right, so we got a couple things tonight. We're going to talk about first Project 1, and then we'll come back for new stuff, and then we'll talk about Project 2. We'll keep on moving. All right, so we're going to do arrays, functions, and objects. This is relatively quick, thankfully, so we'll get a decent amount of time to talk about Project 3 and get started on it here. Project 2, I can count. I don't know how to count. So functions we've started writing, objects we'll learn all about. It's just how we do classes in PHP for object-oriented programming. And then arrays work the same way they do in Java. You can access stuff by index. So relatively straightforward, assuming you've all had at least the one programming course as a prereq, which I think everyone at least had, which is good. Right, and then next week we'll finish up PHP, looking at secure websites, basic authentication, and again, email. Super straightforward. We're not going to do it because I have to show you passwords for things. It's not hard to do, and then your website can like email people, which is kind of fun. Lots of different tools for doing that. And then we'll switch over to JSP, the Java side. Chapters 1 and 2 is essentially, this is everything you install and how you get Hello World going. So we'll do a short little bit to wrap up PHP. We're not going to do anything building our own secure sites because we don't have good trusted public certificates. We'll talk all about that next week. We can do some basic authentication, which we're going to do it badly, but it'll be okay. Again, just very basic, and then emails. And then the week after that, we'll switch fully over, start getting deep into JSP and servlets. We'll pick up the last individual project. We'll learn more about Java server pages, do some more object-oriented programming review, and then the midterm week. So before then, 2 more weeks. On the 21st, I'll give you last semester's midterm, so you can see exactly how I write questions, what to expect, that sort of thing for practice. And then on 10/28, I'll go over the answers to it. So that way you've got some time to look at it and fiddle with it and play with it yourself, rather than, hey, here's a bunch of answers. Right? That doesn't do a lot of people very much good if I just show you all the answers right away. And then when we come back in November after the midterm, when we start picking up new material, we'll talk about the final project. So you've got a good month to get that done. I'd love for you folks to work in pairs on it. Again, we're still kind of in the midst of this global pandemic, so if you prefer not to get close to people, that's cool. We can make it work. And you can do it individually. So it's still the same project, whether or not you do it individually or in pairs. Sorry, the camera's a little funny here. It's a little bit more work working in pairs because you have to do the coordination and collaboration, and you have to talk to each other and schedule time to meet. So it works out to be about the same amount of effort. Even if you're only doing some of the actual coding part, you're still collaborating and spending time working with people. And it's boring to just never work with people. So in the real world, hopefully you end up on a team somewhere and you can collaborate with your team. And you might not like sit side by side and code at the same time as them, like on the exact same thing, but you can at least talk with each other. And 2 or 3 or 4 more heads really do make a better product, because you can kind of design a solution and talk about it and work through it and figure out what's going to go wrong with it earlier, rather than you write up all the code and then it doesn't work exactly like you expected it to do. And then you have to go debug it yourself. So we'll talk about databases the week after that. We got a Thanksgiving break. Hope you guys have a good turkey day. We'll come back, pick up the last little bit on session and cookies. So this is how we can get people logged in, keep session data around, which is a lot of fun. The week after that, just some highlights here. We'll do some Ajax stuff, which is kind of fun, the asynchronous JavaScript, and actually make our websites be a little bit more responsive, which is a little bit of fun. We'll talk about a couple of big frameworks. I'm not going to show you how any of them work. Like, all of the main frameworks have a how-to page that's relatively straightforward. We're focused on, here's the basics. If you know how the basics work, you can use any framework. But if you only learn how to use a framework, you have no idea how to actually do the stuff behind the scenes. And then December 16th, and I already talked about December, we'll get together and no longer on Twitch, we'll do a little Zoom meeting for anyone who wants to be remote, and everyone will present their final projects. So you'll show it, demonstrate, okay, it does this, it does this, it does this, it does this, it does this. Anybody can ask questions. I might ask you to show me something in your code if I'm curious, and we'll call it a night. That sound good? Cool. So we're cruising along. Don't forget the quizzes. So chapters 5, 6, and 7, there's just a couple questions from each chapter, so still just 10 total due tonight. We'll do the same thing, just a couple questions from 11, 13, and 14 for the quiz this week when I post it after class. Leave myself a note so I don't forget. Quiz 11, 12, no, 11, 13, 14? I can't count. 13, 14. There we go. All right, questions, thoughts, concerns? We good? We'll jump into project 2. We'll go over how I'm going to solve it. I'm just going to keep modifying the same project, if that's right, instead of like copy paste to make a whole other version. But you can kind of see it's going to evolve as we go. So we've got everything going so far with, not that one, our people, right? So I've done all the people models. I did the people controller, and you folks were filling in stocks and transactions. So transactions is the hard one. There's a lot going on in transactions because it interacts with people and it interacts with stocks. So it's a little bit more complex. So we got a chance to kind of try out some of the things we're working on. So let's do the easy one first. We'll add a stock controller, and we'll add the stock model and a stock view. And we can go from there. So I'm going to add a controller. So we'll call this one stocks or stock. I don't know. Maybe stock. Add a new PHP file for it. Remember, a controller, essentially all it's doing is getting the request and figuring out where it needs to go. I think we got all the lights off. So probably we're just going to start with the list. Right? We can do a lot of this other stuff as we go, but we're pretty much going to start off with the list. So I'm going to start with my list action here, and we'll get to that else if after. So in stock, and we'll include the top. Did I not include the top nav? I didn't include that. That's in the view. That's right. Our view will include the top nav. So we'll go get the input, see, hey, did they give me an action? We like this idea, we'll just pass an action so all of our forms can point at the same controller. I don't need to make one controller per wherever form is going to go. And we can find that action. Right, so then this will be like list stock. Stocks, maybe an S. List stocks. I like that. So we don't need any names. Again, we could add filtering if we wanted to for that sort of thing. We don't have it. We're going to have a stock model here. And then we need stocks, is we're going to get back from list stocks. And then probably, again, we don't need to do any filtering, so we're not going to worry too much about it. And then we'll include our view, list stocks. All right, so we need to go add a model. So we'll add a new model for stocks. Now this one, right, like our person model, we'll need to have some functions. So we'll do like the list one first. Over to stocks. So this will be list stocks. Again, we don't need any arguments. That's fine. List stocks. Require the database. There's no last name happening here, so we just want everything no matter what. There's no finding happening. Great. The lists are from stocks, I think. So let me fire up XAMPP and we can actually double check the name of that table. I don't remember if it's stock or stocks. Execute, we'll store that as stocks, close the cursor, turn stocks. I should be able to list out relatively easily. Just select everything from that table. Okay, we'll go to the PHP MyAdmin page. My port number doesn't. I can go change that in the config. It never saves for whatever reason. XAMPP's a little bit particular. There it goes. All right, so our stock program. Open that one up. Our table is called just stock. Okay, with no S, so just stock. So select star from stock. Should get us everything. It should list, and then we can return that. Great. And now we need a way to view it. We need a little view. So I'm going to take my person view, list person view. I'm just going to copy paste it in here. Nope, that didn't paste the right thing. This one, copy. Copy. paste, and we'll call this list stocks. So include the top nav. Now, we don't have ID, name, last name, balance. We have symbol, and we have current price, and we have name. Sure, so symbol, name, and current price. There's no balance there. Great, and we're going to loop through. So for each stock, stocks as stock, right, individual, we'll go and echo the stock symbol, stock name, and the stock current price. Current price. I think that's how we named it, right? Current underscore price. And names are particular, right? We got to make sure we get the right letters as we go. And then there's no search by anything happening here. Just a list with a little table. Right? Oops. Did too many. Thank you. I'd have been sad about that. This one, thankfully we can undo. Right, so we got our stock controller going, right? And we're just going to include them, right? Include the view. We're good to go. Let's give it a shot. So let me run it. Oh, we didn't add it to the top nav yet, did we? Let's fix up that top nav. Then we're going to have manage stock as a reference here, right? Manage stocks, and then we'll go to stock.php. Yeah, stock.php is our controller. So refresh, we get the new top nav. Now we have a manage stocks page. Uh-oh. Models, stock. Oh, we called it stocks. So where's our include? Stocks.php. There we go. Fix our include. Refresh. Uh-oh. No variable statement. Let's see. Back in our stocks. Oh, we didn't prepare the statement. I deleted too many things. Sorry. Statement, prepare the query. There we go. Then we can execute that thing that exists. Okay, refresh. All right, it's getting close. Must be a type of array object. It's null. What do we do wrong? Return stocks. Our controller says stocks equal list stocks. List stocks, right? Is that our function? The stocks. We got stocks. How's our list stocks? Oh my goodness, I changed the wrong one. I changed list person and not list stocks. How did I do that? That's awesome. Okay, so we'll fix that. So this is what we want then in list stocks. And this is what we want in list persons. Right? Okay, now list stocks should say stocks. All right, getting closer. Trying to access an array, value of type null. All right, so there is no stock name that we did wrong. Oh, I didn't change it from person. See, copy paste is dangerous sometimes. So I was trying to find the person object. We don't have a person object. We have a stock object. One more refresh. All right, now we're moving along here. Now we've got a list of stocks. We can list. Okay. Now we need ways to go and do more things with it. Right. So in our, let's see, this was our person view. Had all of that. Right. And we included that in our person controller. There's our person view. We have the person. Oh, that's the model. There's the list. Ah, the regular view at the bottom. All right, so we'll add one more view. So we'll have a stock view or person view. A stock view. I'm doing the wrong one, folks. Stock view, PHP. All right, we'll pretty much copy what we have here, right? So from our person view, our stock view, let me make sure I copy the right one here now. Person view over to stock view. Again, we're not going to need all of these, but we can start modifying them as we go. So we can have add stock. Will take me to stock.php. We need a symbol. We should pass symbol. Symbol. We've got a name. And we've got a current price. Current price. Wow, I cut way too much out of that one. There we go. Current price. Hidden the action can be add stock. Our button can be add stock. So I'm going to just comment this out for a second while we wait. We'll come back to it when we're done. We'll add like one at a time as we go. Oh goodness. PHP comments too. There we go. Just add some comments in here. All right, well, just that list or the view here. So now we'll get the add stock option. Right, then back in our stock controller, right, when we're done, eventually then we can include my stock view. View/stock view. Right, just like we do with our people. We'll just include the view. We're good. We'll have just the first form showing up, so we can add to the first. So let's give it a refresh, and now we get our view popped in here. We get our add stock, so let's see if we can add one. How about AMC? That's a popular one, right? Anyone know what the current price of AMC is? Let's see. Oops, I can't spell. AMC stock. There we go. 38.14. Sure. The full name. What is the full name of AMC? AMC Entertainment Holdings. Entertainment Holdings. And I forgot already what the price was. 38.14. 38.14. Can we add? Still at stock PHP. Well, what happened? Well, we don't have a handler for it, right? In our stock controller, we said, okay, if you didn't give me an action, go do this. We did give them an action, but we're not handling it yet. Right? We only wrote one piece of it, so we need to have the next handler. So else, if action is equal to add stock, what do we do? Right? Well, we're going to need the model for stocks. Right? Then we need to go validate all those inputs. I don't want to have to do this by hand, so we just go back and we'll copy paste a couple of these. Let's see, we've got name. Okay, these ones ought to work here. Go back to our controller. We need a symbol. We need a name, and we need a current price. Okay, doing our special characters, right? Make sure we're not going to get screwed up here when we start throwing things in the database. We want to sanitize them here. So let's go get the data out of symbol, out of name, and out of current price. And we'll validate with that float validator. And then we can check real quick, right? We want to say, hey, make sure these are good. So if symbol does not equal, well, I guess if any of them does, right? If symbol is blank, or if the name is blank, or if the current price equals 0. You can't have a stock that costs $0. That's a legitimate invalid price. Where before we would take a couple zeros for people's balance, because you can have $0, right? You're allowed to do that. So if it was no good, right, then we're going to send them back to, what's our people model here? Have an error, right, and include the error. Otherwise, we'll go do the thing. Back to our stock controller. Have an error, you must include symbol, name, and current price. Right, we can reuse that same error page, right? Just include that error view, which is the nice thing of having these little partial views. We can just reuse them anywhere we want them. Then, okay, sure, then we can include the model, I guess, if we need to. Include the model. We're going to call add stock. Stock, given the symbol, given the name, and the current price. Okay, and then we'll header them back to stock.php. Right, so it reloads the page, so it gets rid of that post. All right, so now we need a function right? We need that in our person model. We need a function for add stocks. We need a function for add stocks. Function add stocks given a symbol, a name, and a current price. Let's go do the thing. All right, so let's require the database. We're going to do an insert command. So again, I'm just going to go copy off of people for a second here. There's our people model, person model. So our insert, then, insert and binds, back to our stocks model. We're going to insert into stock, symbol, name, and current price. Price, values of symbol, name, and current price. Nope, too many copy pastes. And then we'll go bind symbol to the dollar symbol. We'll bind name to name. Oops. And we'll bind current price to current price. Execute our query, close the cursor, that's it. We don't need to return any values here, we're just adding the stock. So now let's come back. All right, we're back on our stock page. We didn't give them anything. Let's try and add AMC. AMC, what did I say, 3814. Oh, undefined function add stock. Do we not call it add stock? I call it add stocks. Add stock. One more time, refresh. There we go, and now we have AMC. Cool. All right, so add seems to be working. All right, should we add the update next? Is this interesting at all? And it's a lot of copy paste. Transactions will be much more fun. All right, so let's go add our. How about function for update? You want to do that for the function first? We can really do them in any order, but actually our update's going to be pretty similar here, so we can probably just take our one from stocks. Because you still need to give it a symbol, a name, and a current price. We'll call update stock. Given a symbol, a name, and a current price, we're going to update stock. And we'll say, now do we want to change the symbol? We probably shouldn't be allowed to change the symbol, like, because that's an insert, really. So we probably only want to be able to change the name and the current price. Like, either way you did it was fine, but like if you're changing the symbol, it's really adding a brand new one, because that is our identifier. So we'll just say set name equal to colon name for substitution, comma, current price equal to colon current price. And we need to say, well, which one, right? We do this where the symbol equals the colon symbol. The binds are exactly the same, right? I think even the update command was exactly the same. Let's double check. Yeah, just execute. Great. So that one ought to work then, right? If you give me a name, symbol, and current price, I'm going to update the existing symbol to the new name and current price. How did I lose my view? It's crazy. No? Did I unpin that somehow? There we go. I don't know, I like having that pinned. Right, so we can update. So then in our controller, we need a way to update stock. And essentially it's the same thing, right? We still need the name, we still need the symbol, we still need the current price. Update. But then the method we're going to call is update stock. Does the exact same thing now otherwise, right? Still need a symbol, still need a name, still need a current price. We get the same variables out. This one's kind of nice and easy for update. And then we need that in our stock view. We need the update form. All right, so let's move our comment down one. Come back. So now we have an update stock. We need the same labels here. Great, so I can grab those exact same labels. Now I don't have a selector, right? But that's okay. Maybe we can add that one in after. That wasn't required, right? So no selector. And then it is update stock. For a function, we'll call update stock. and make sure we point it at the stock controller, stock PHP controller. Okay, so now we got the view, we've got the model, we've got the controller. I think it should all work now. Let's give it a shot. We'll refresh. Now we got the update. So let's update AMC. So we'll just leave their name the same, I guess. AMC Entertainment Holdings. So let's change their price to say 39. Update. Undefined function update stock. Did I not call it update stock? Let's see. I think I called it update stock. Update stock. Let's check our controller. Stock. Oh, we didn't include. No, we did include. Model stock. Update stock. That's what we call it, right? Update stock. Yeah, it matches. Stock view. Sends it to the stock page. All right, let's look at that error again. Stock line 43. That's our stock controller. Can't find function update stock. Stock controller, line 43, gonna update. Include, was it, oh, the model stocks model. Symbol name current price. Let me just hit rerun here. Maybe it just needs to redeploy. AMC, 39, update. Okay, I think I just needed to hit redo. It must not have updated the model, right, for me. Or maybe I didn't save something. Refreshing is always risky, I guess. All right, so we got insert, we got update, now we need delete. Okay, so we'll go add a delete stock to our model. Now, to delete, all we need is the symbol, right? You just give me a symbol here and we can delete it. This is delete stock, and the command then is delete from stock, where symbol equals the symbol. The only thing we need to bind in is the symbol. Compare the query. Great, so we got our delete function. Deletes are pretty simple. In the stock controller then, let's go look for delete, another else if, that one here, right? Another else if the action is delete stock, just look for the symbol, and if there is no symbol, then you must include symbol. Great, and we'll call delete. Given a symbol, header you back to the stock page. All right, so now we need in the view my delete form. Okay, we don't have the selector. That's kind of a bummer. That's okay. So we'll just take a symbol input. We can go add the selector later, I guess, if we wanted. Nope, that should have been inside the div. Put that in here. Okay, input, delete stock. Make sure it's called delete stock. Point it at the stock page. Okay, and we don't have any transfer from their balance. We don't need that form, so I think we're good with our comments then. Okay, let's see if it works. Let me redeploy then, right? Or hit run. I'll have it redeploy. Go to stocks, delete stock. Let's go add a new one here. So let's add Microsoft maybe. What are they? Let's stock. They're currently 294. All right, 294. We'll add it, and then we'll go delete Microsoft, delete, and they're gone. So delete seems to work. All right, so that was the easy one, right? Transactions is the harder one. We all right so far? Okay. Sorry, you folks look bored. I apologize. You put Cardano in yours, crypto. I left some persons in the list. Oh, yeah, that was where I was getting that error before. I'm sorry, chat. I forgot to be watching you. I had to remember to look over the other monitor. All right, so let's go add another controller. This will be our transaction controller. Okay. And we'll start with like a transaction list here. So we'll start and say, okay, if you don't give me something, let's do list. Oops, too many PHP tags. So we'll add a transactions model. We'll get a list of transactions. We'll call that list transactions. And we'll add a list transactions view here. Okay, so the first, we can go add the view. Right, this will be our list transactions. Go take it from our list stocks maybe. List transactions. Make sure I change the right one here. Now transactions have a lot more info. Right? Oh, we called it purchase. I'm sorry. List. Do you want me to rename it here? Or are you okay with transactions? List purchases. We'll just call it transactions. Sorry. So we've got an ID. We've got the person ID. We've got the stock symbol. We've got the quantity. We have the purchase price, and we have a date and time. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Goodness. We have an ID. We have the symbol. Maybe we'll do person ID next. We have the person ID. We have the symbol. We have the purchase price. We have the quantity. No, why? Not a comment. The quantity. And we have the date and time, right? Okay. And then for each in dollar transactions, as transaction, we can go get all those values out. So we need 6 more, or 3 more, right, to get all 6. So make sure we change that transaction variable here. Right? Don't use stock. All right, we get an ID. Sometimes that suggestion helper is not helpful. We get a person ID. We get a symbol. And we get, oh, I already had symbol there. Oh well, purchase price. We get a quantity. And we get a date and time. Make sure I type all these right. When we have date, purchase date. No, date time. I just called it date time. Sure, date time. All one word. Terrible naming, I'm sorry. Anyway, we should be able to list them all out if I can give them a list. Okay, we need a model. We need a transactions model. So the transactions model, let's go list here. So let's do like a select star. Again, no filtering. We'll have list transactions. Use the database, list star from, again, our table is purchase. Sure. Purchase, right? Singular. Yep, singular. Prepare, get back. We'll call this dollar transactions, return transactions. It's a simple one. Make sure we're calling the right method. So then in the controller, right, we call list transactions. Looks good. Transactions. Just transactions. You don't need to call it model. Transactions, PHP, we'll include it. We'll send it to the list transactions view. We should be able to be off to the races. So all we need now is our top nav. Okay, so in top nav, we'll add manage transactions. Transactions, transaction.php. We just hit run here, make sure we get everything copied out. Manage transactions, we list. You see 2 purchases. And it worked the very first time. That was nice. A dad joke. Yeah, you got it. We definitely need a break for something silly. This is getting boring already. We're almost to the fun stuff. Almost to the fun stuff. Where is it here? Just had a good one for you. You already heard that one. You don't want that one. Yeah. So when I was traveling, it's been a while. This was, a couple years back. We were flying, and they ended up losing one of my suitcases. It shouldn't be that hard, right? I mean, like, stuff is all barcoded and things, but it was like lost, and they were just giving me a hard time. They're like, no, go away. We lost it. We're sorry. I was like, no, I'm going to sue you. They're like, okay, bring it on. So I ended up suing the airline, but I lost my case. All right, that was a groaner. All right, I guess that makes it a good one. All right, so our top nav, we can list. Let's go back to our controller. Now, what else do we want to do? We should include the rest of that page then, right? So we can include use transaction view, PHP, and we'll make a transaction view page. Now, I'm just going to make a new one here instead of the copy paste because that caused trouble last time. So transaction view. And what do we want to put in here? I'll copy everything from stock view. Throw that in for now. Again, we'll work it one at a time. Add stock, I'll comment out. We'll come back to it after we go. So this is add transaction. Add transaction. So take it to the transaction PHP controller. Transaction controller. We need a bunch of things, right? So we've got 3 of them. Do a couple more. And so we don't need an ID, actually, right? We only need 5, because we don't need an ID. So I need the person ID. Person ID. We need the symbol. There's symbol there. Cool. Got symbol already. I'll leave that one there. We need the current price. Now, we should actually go look this up. Right? The better way to do it is to say, let's go find the current price out of the stock table, and that's what you're paying. Like, you shouldn't say, hey, bank, I want to buy 10 Microsoft stocks at $10 each. They're just going to laugh at you, right? No good. So we can look this one up. We'll look at that. That'll make this much more interesting, too. So the person ID, the symbol, the quantity, and we don't even need to give a date and time either, right? We can say, okay, the now, when you bought it, is the date and time you bought it. So we don't actually need all of it in the form. If you included all of it, great. That's no problem. There was no requirement around you had to generate these things or look them up. But let's do it the right way since we're here. All right, and this is add transaction. Add transaction. Okay, so we got an add transaction form now that should show up in the controller. There we go. And it's not going to do anything yet because the controller doesn't know how to do anything with it yet. So we got to look for an action then, right? So else if the action is equal to add transaction, let's go do something. So I need to go look up a couple things. Again, I don't want to have to repeat that myself. So let's go to, where's our other controller? Here we go. Let's go grab a couple here. So we'll grab the symbol. We'll grab maybe the person ID. We got the symbol. We need the person ID. Person ID, and then we need the quantity, right? So quantity should be an integer, right? I guess you can actually buy partial stocks, so maybe that's fine. You don't necessarily have to buy them whole. A lot of markets or transaction places will let you buy individual ones. So person ID should be an integer. We'll filter input given filter validate for an int. We have too many parentheses? Yeah, too many parentheses. Okay. Cool. And then we should sanity check it, right? So if, let's just copy paste one of these, include the view, sure. So if the symbol is not blank or the person ID equals, now I'm probably going to say 0 is no good. Right? We know we started the identity at 1. The first person we entered was 1. You can't have an ID lower than 1. Now, fun fact, I actually, it just dawned on me the other week, by the way, as an integer value, up to -2 billion is a valid integer. Right? So, we could start at -2 billion with our identity and just auto increment 1, and then we can have 4 billion entries in the table instead of 2 billion, and then run out of room. Which does happen to people. If you're fans of chess, the largest chess website out there, chess.com, not too long ago, it might have been a couple years now, actually. I've only been playing there a little while. They ran out of room storing games with an integer value ID. So they went and they changed everything, right? They knew it was going to happen. They weren't caught by surprise or anything. They changed it all. But what they forgot to change on the iPhone app was the type of value it was storing. So all of a sudden, all their iPhone users crashed, and the app wouldn't work because they forgot to update. Oh, it needs to be the long or whatever type it is to get a big integer instead of a regular integer. It was just a fun, they thought they were all prepared and everything was fine. Having Android apps and Apple apps and websites, and it's hard stuff out there in the world. It's hard stuff. So I felt bad for them, but it made for a good story. All right, anyway, we got quantity, we got person ID, and we'll check quantity is not 0. I mean, maybe even positive, but quantity is if it's less than or equal to 0, because maybe you gave me a negative value, which would be super weird. Right? I mean, I guess that would represent selling stock at some point, but we haven't gotten there yet, right? We'll get there later. So if the quantity is less than 0 or equal to, we're no good. So we need symbol, person ID, and quantity. send them to the error page. Otherwise, great. Let's load up our transactions model. And then we will add transaction given the symbol, given the person ID, given the quantity, right? Those things. We're going to look up the other ones. We will generate the date and time. We will look up the current price, and we will be assigned an ID. So that's all we need there in the model. And then we'll send it back to transactions.php. Okay? All right so far? All right, so let's come to our transactions model, and we're going to add our function for adds transaction given the symbol, person ID, and the quantity. Okay, now a couple bad things could happen, right? We're not checking it to make sure they have enough balance. We need to do that as well. So that needs to happen in the controller so that we can send them to an error page if they don't have enough money. We're not there yet. We'll get to it. Right? Let's do it simple, make sure the simple works, and then we'll add some of that interesting logic here. Right? Let's bite off one small piece at a time. So to just add a simple transaction then, right, we need to go find out what the price is. Okay, we can do that. So to find the price, you can ask stocks for all prices, right? You can list all of your stocks and find all the current prices. Or maybe we add a value here that we could filter on. We've got lots of choices. I think maybe a single find stock might make sense. Right? If we want to look up just one stock, maybe we can call it like find stock given a symbol. So we're going to add a function for find stock given a symbol. It's going to do the same thing here. Not too many parentheses. So select star from stock where the symbol equals the colon symbol. Right, then we need to go bind that value in. Prepare it, bind the value. Now it's only just a single result, so fetch all gives you everything. Remember, fetch will give you just one row. So if you only want one row back, we could just fetch. I mean, fetch all will give you everything, but it would be a list then, and you'd have to get the 0th index out of the list. Either way is perfectly fine. I think just fetching one is probably a little easier here. And we'll take that stock and we'll return that stock. So we can get a single stock out with our find stock method. Well, to call that then, we need to include, we're going to require the models slash stocks.php. And then we can get the current price. So the stock can be find stock. Oh, this is in list. I'm sorry. That's the wrong thing. Here we go. So we got to go get that one first. So it required the database, so we can get our database connection. Go load up that stock model, so we can find a stock then, given the symbol. And I can say my current price is equal to that stock index of current price. Right now I've got the current price of the stock. Then I can start working on my insert. Right, so then I would do an insert query. Let me go grab one of those. List add. Here we go. We'll go do a little insert here. Come back. We're going to insert into transaction. Oh no, ours was purchase, right? Purchase. We're going to give it the person ID, the symbol. We're going to give it the quantity. We're going to give it the current price. And we're also going to give it the date time. So the values we're going to give it then, we need to give it a person ID, substitute in, a symbol, substitute in, a quantity, substitute in, a current price, substitute in. And then for the current date and time, you can say now with set of parentheses. I saw someone, Borculator, sorry. Oh, spent a lot of time trying to find how you get the current date and time. Apologies. Again, spend a good half hour trying to find it. It's honestly, it's good practice trying to find answers online. Right? That's a really good skill as a software developer. But after a good half hour, just ask me, and I would have just told you, oh, you can use now. So like a little bit intentional. I apologize that wasn't given to you before. But again, some of those search skills are going to come in handy here. If you hate me for it, I apologize, and I'll take that heat. That's sure. That's what it is. All right, now we need to go do all of our substitutions. So we got symbol, we've got quantity, we've got current price, we need a person ID. So this will be a person ID, given the person ID, right? I think those all subbed in okay. Oh no, sorry, quantity here, quantity. Okay, again, we haven't done the subtracting from the balance yet. We'll get to that, right? We need to do that in a second, right? We can get to it. So we just want to see, hey, can I add one right now? So we're buying stocks for free, right? This is a good bug if you find it in someone else's app. Although they'll probably end up charging you later, who knows? Right, so manage transactions, add a transaction. Okay, what person? Well, I don't know, let's see, in people, I've got, how about me? What symbol? Let's go buy some AMC, and let's buy like 10 of them. Why not? They're free. Uh-oh, symbol, person ID, and quantity. What did we screw up here? On the transaction page, let's check our form. We have person under ID, symbol. Oh, this was quantity. I put it in as name. See, bad copy paste. Go back, refresh. AMC 110. Oh, goodness. Did it? All right, let's turn on the dev tools and make sure it's loading right. So we want to see, what did we send here? We sent symbol, quantity, action. Yeah, that all looks fine. Person ID, symbol, and quantity. Person, symbol, quantity. Yep. So what's up with our controller here? Person, oh, symbol. Oh, name. It's not name. It's person ID. There we go. Person ID and not current price. Quantity. All right. Copy pastes are hard. I'm sorry, but less typing still. Less typing still. They shouldn't. No, because we're just grabbing everything out of the post. Yep. All right. Try that one more time with fix our controller here. Add the transaction. Okay. Ooh, undefined function, add transaction. Transaction controller 28. Transaction controller line 28. We want to add transaction. Did I spell that wrong? Is that in our model? Yeah, I spelled something wrong. I have add trans. Nope. No, I spelled it wrong here. I have transaction, transaction. Goodness. Right, manage transactions. I was the person. I wanted to buy AMC. I wanted to buy 10 of them. Let's add it. Ooh, all right. Unknown column, current price in field list. Transaction model, 36. All right, so look at our transaction model, 36. Current price. Current price. So is the current price, right? We're subbing in. Oh, is it not? What is it called in the database? Purchase price. Purchase price. Purchase price. So we're going to sub in the current price as the purchase price. I think that makes sense here, right? Or maybe we want to call it purchase price. I don't know. I kind of like when things match, so I'll call it purchase price. How about that? We'll update that then to purchase price. Subbing in purchase price. All right, a little happier now. Okay. Go back, try again. URL not found on the server. Transactions, PHP. Do we header them back to the wrong place? Yes, it's transaction, PHP, not transactions. This is why conventions are important, right? If you're going to go plural, go make everything plural. If you're going to make it singular, make everything singular. All right, one more time, reload. Okay, so it did show up though, right? So let's have someone else buy AMC. Look at that. And it's getting the current price out of AMC. So if we go manage our stock and we update AMC, sure, we'll leave it at AMC Entertainment Holdings. Let's change it to $38 or $28. Look at that, it's on sale. $28. We go add one for here. We'll buy some AMC. We'll buy 20 of them, right, since it's on sale, and we get the current purchase price. Right, so we're looking up what it is currently in the data. That's ideal, right? You don't want people to tell you how much they're paying for it, right? Don't let people give you things, because people do bad things all the time. All right, but now we need to subtract the money from somebody. So we need to see if we have enough money, right? Okay, well, we got a couple things happening here, right? This is our first sanity check, right? Now I need another sanity check. So this will still be our else here, sorry. Back it up a little. But now we're going to do another else if. Else if what? Well, we need to go check and see how much does it currently cost and what their current balance is. Okay, so let's take a look. We've got our person model. The list person only takes a name. All we have is an ID. Right, so maybe we want a find person. Function find person by an ID. Sure, we can do that. Essentially all of this, right? But the query then is select star from person where ID equals ID. Prepare the query. Don't need any last name here. We're going to bind ID to ID. We can go execute it. We'll get a person, I guess, and we'll just fetch one. We'll return person. Okay, so we can find an individual person out to get their name. This way we can get their balance, right, from that individual person. We can find one stock to get the current price. We can multiply the quantity by the current price and see if that matches the person's balance. Okay, so let's take a look at our controller. Oh, our controller here. So we have to do a couple things then first, right? So I guess we would do that first then. Maybe we would do that nested inside of here. So if it's good, right, then let's go check it here. So let's include our person model and the stock model. It's goodness, we have to do all of them. Person model and the stocks model. Okay, and then before we add transaction, we need to check and see if we have enough. So we can get a person is find person, given the $person ID. Person ID, right? And then we can get their balance out. Should be the person index of balance, right? Then we can get the current price. So we'll have the stock then as the find stock given the symbol. And then the current price is going to be that stock index of current price. Current price. Okay, and then we have a purchase price. Purchase price is going to be the current price times the quantity. And then if that purchase price is greater than the balance, we can have an error. Send them to the error page. I don't know what, that person doesn't have enough balance to purchase that much stock. I don't know, that sounds terrible, but sure. Right? And then otherwise, we can go add our transaction. Right? And then we still need to subtract that from them. Well, it turns out, right, we did in person already. We have a add money that changes their balance. And if you just give it a negative amount, right, adding a negative value is like subtraction. So I don't even want to write any more code. I'm just going to call add money. Back in our transaction controller, we can also say then, so if you have enough money, we can add money. Well, what do we need to tell add money? We have to give you the person ID, and we have to give you the purchase price times -1, right? Make it negative. Right? I think you can put a negative sign here on top of it. I think that works. Just say negative purchase price. That may or may not work. We'll find out. We'll find out. All right, so now we actually need money to buy things. So let's take a look. So I have 10,150. Let's go add another transaction. Let's go buy 1 share of AMC. Should take $28 away. Oh! Parameter not defined in execute person line 32. Nope. Okay, so negative purchase price was no good. Sorry. Purchase price times -1. Try that one more time. Still parameter not defined? Person model 32? Oh. Maybe that was the find person. 32. 32. Symbol. We have a symbol. Find stock. One more time. All right. Invalid parameter number. Parameter is not defined in stock program models. Person model line 32. Person model line 32. From transaction given find person. So we try and find the person given the person ID. What was wrong with find person in people? Oh, I probably didn't fix this query here then, right? Select star from person where ID equal, not last name equals ID. Didn't fix up my query right. One more, add transaction, right? Cannot redeclare list stocks previously declared in stocks line 8. Uh-oh. All these requires are starting to get a little messy here. That's unfortunate. So you can then, if we want, use require once. It will only load it one time, which is probably better. So this is at stocks line 4. Stocks line 4. Uh-oh. Required database? Is that what it was? Not read. Oh, the method list stocks. Okay, so when we were including stocks, we did it too many times here. Let's see. So we can do require once here on stocks. Make sure it works. So because the controller required it, it's technically already there. Right? Because when we require from the model, we're just saying, hey, take all the code, jam it in here. We've already done that with the stock again. So I think require one, we can even just take it out, right? Because we know that's all happening in there. Let's try that. I think require once will take care of it. Resend. Hey, there we go. All right, I bought one more AMC. It loaded. Let's see if I can go manage people now. And my balance is less. Right, that went down by 28. Right, it didn't go up. I think it went down. We try it again. 10,094. Let's buy a bunch of them. So we'll buy one. We'll do AMC and buy like 100 of them. Right, bought 100 of them. So now manage people. All right, my balance went way down. Let's try and buy a crazy amount of them. Symbol AMC. Person doesn't have enough balance to purchase that much stock. Add transaction. Oh, we lost our list here. Kind of a bummer. We don't have list. That's okay. All right, so add seems to be working. We checked the balance, right? We're making sure we're not buying more than we have money for. Right now we need update and we need delete. So update, I said, don't worry about it. Like just update it just like we did. So like if they say, oh, I ended up buying more, we're not going to charge them more money or anything like that. That arithmetic's a little bit harder to like manage, hey, what's actually changing with the current version to the new version? Am I adding or subtracting money, that sort of thing? And the deletes are pretty straightforward. Let's go back to our controller then, and we have more else if. Else if the action is equal to update stock. Well, we still need, actually we need more variables here, right? Because we need to know what they're changing the price from. And possibly the time, if you wanted. We can take a time value, just a string for time, if they want to change what time we logged it as, to update that one, that's fine. So let's get a bunch of values here. And then we'll get the purchase price is the filter input float on purchase price, right? Okay, so we got all of those. Then we'll do our sanity check. Include an error otherwise. Now, purchase price, we probably still don't want to let that be 0, right, or negative. So we can add another or. We make sure purchase price is not negative. It's probably a bad thing. Right? Quantity, purchase price. Okay, otherwise we can go run and update. So then we'll say, include our transactions model. And call the method, header and back. So we update transaction. Oh, we wanted the date and time too, right? go grab that. So we needed a to, oops. Doesn't need to be a specific filter. I think there's a filter for date and time. Is there not? Nope. Filter validate. No, there's not. Okay, so no validation. We'll just take some text here. Call that the date and time. So we're going to update transaction given the person ID, given the symbol, given the quantity, given the purchase price, and given the date and time. Okay, I'm going to copy all of that. We'll header them back. Come back to our model. We'll add that function. Function update person. Okay, it's essentially the same insert here, right? But we're going to call an update command. So we have update purchase, and we're going to set a bunch of things. Oh, we need the ID, right? We also need the ID. We need to know what one we're updating here. We also need an ID. It's just an ID. Just for ID. And we also need to validate that ID. Does not equal 0. Sure. Or I guess if it's less than or equal to 0, same thing is wrong. Okay, it must include ID. Symbol, okay. So we have to pass it the ID. ID, symbol, person ID. Go back to transactions. Update purchase. We're going to set a bunch of these. So we want to set person ID equal to $colon person ID. We want to set symbol equals colon symbol. That's colon symbol. Symbol, all right, this is getting long. Let's bump it down a line here. We want to set quantity equal dollar quantity. Oh, sorry, I don't need set again here. Set quantity equals colon quantity. The purchase price equals colon purchase price. And then date time equals colon date time. And then there's no values here, right? We have a where clause. We're going to say where ID equals colon ID. That's the last thing we sub in. We don't need the parentheses either. Right, so we're going to update. We're going to set person to person, symbol to symbol, quantity to quantity, purchase price to purchase price, date time, where the ID matches. And we have to sub them all in. So we've got purchase price, we've got quantity, we've got symbol, we've got person ID. We need to bind ID equals the ID. And then the date time equals the date time. Date time equals the date and time. I think that's it then for update. Right, then we'll come back to our view and we'll fix the update form. We'll send it to transaction PHP. We're going to post. We need a symbol. We need a quantity. Oh, here we got quantity. We need person ID. We'll start with those three. Person ID, symbol, quantity. We need a regular ID here. We'll just do a regular ID. Person ID, the quantity. We need a purchase price. As purchase price. And we need a date and time. So date and times are hard. Those are a little bit obnoxious. All right, and then we're going to update transaction. Call it update transaction. Okay, well, we don't need the delete yet either. And leave that one commented out. All right, so we're going to set transaction. That would have not worked. Transaction given an ID, a person ID, a symbol, a quantity, a purchase price, date, time. Okay, we'll send it to the controller. The controller is going to say, okay, you want to update stock? Nope, update transaction. Did I copy that in wrong? Update transaction. Update transaction. Given an ID, a symbol, person ID, a quantity, purchase price, and date and time. Great. We'll do our validations. Probably use special characters here too on anything that's a string. Right? Makes good sense. Just don't want nasty stuff to get into the database. All right, and then we'll update transaction. Then our model, do we have the update transaction? Yep, we have the update transaction function. Should work. We'll try it and see. Give that a run. And the transactions, we have update. All right, so let's update transaction 7. Let's set person ID then to 2, symbol to AMC, quantity to, I don't know, 100, purchase price, let's say they bought it for 10, and date and time. I'm just going to copy paste this string here and say, hey, maybe they bought it tomorrow. Oof, undefined variable DB. Uh-oh, I didn't require the DB. Require the database. Okay, then we got our query. Refresh, send. All right, look at that, it updated transaction. Ooh, that looks bad though. Didn't like our date and time. All right, what did we give it? We gave it date and time, right? The string we got through here. Transaction, date and time. I think we set it all. Transaction, update, date and time equals date and time. Let's see, I don't know, I'm going to put a breakpoint here. Now let's try it in debug mode. Let's see what we're getting. Make sure we're actually passing through a date. So let's update 7, update it to person 2, AMC, quantity 10, purchase price 10. Why not? And I'll just copy paste in one of these dates. Update transaction. All right, there we go. So now we have all of our variables here. Where's our debugger view? Where's my variables? View. I don't want a new watch. Where'd they go? Oh, I have got the debugger as full screen in here from another class. That's what it was. I close out some of these. Goodness. Almost there, almost there. Stocks, list, index, transaction. We have too many. Like breakpoints? No? All stack? No? Where'd it go? I lost it, friends. Window. Debugging. Variables. Okay. I just closed it, apparently. Thought it was full screen. We're in the transactions model. We have a date and time. The string is 10. What? Oh, I think we screwed something up with our passing our variables here. So did we do them in the right order? Let's see if our controller does them in the right order. We're supposed to give ID, symbol, person ID, quantity, purchase price, date and time. Yeah, we've got all that. We've got all that. Did the special characters screw some of that up, maybe? I wonder if we need to undo special characters. All right, so let me stop and restart, because that was no good. Yeah, dates are hard. Date time is set to purchase price. Did I bind it wrong in my model? Yep. No, I bound it right here. Purchase price is purchase price. Date time is date time. Is that in my controller? Yes. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. That's what it was. Okay, so yeah, I was grabbing purchase price instead of date time. Okay, weird bug. Let's try that again then. All right, we're going to update 7, person ID 2, symbol AMC, quantity 10, purchase price 10. And let's give it another date and time here. Let's just bump it out maybe a minute. See if we can give it something. There, okay, it did work. That was obnoxious. Thank you. Bonus points there, IVD, for you. Bonus points. All right, so we got transaction. We can update. Now let's go delete transactions. Right, add our view. Now we'll delete a transaction. Transaction. Send it to the transaction controller. For post, we need the ID. Just an ID here. Delete transaction. Delete transaction. Okay, we've got that. We need the controller then to handle a delete. So else if there's a delete, it's delete transaction. Now all we need is ID here, right? And we just need to check that there is an ID. Must include ID is the error. include the model. We want to delete the transaction just by ID. Header back to transaction. All right, that one's pretty good. Our model then needs a delete transaction method. Let's go take someone else's delete. It's probably easier. Back to transactions, we'll add that delete. Delete a transaction by an ID. Delete from transaction, where ID equals ID. Bind the ID to the ID. Execute, close the cursor. All right, I think that one's done. Let's see if we can delete. Let's delete that number 7. Oh. Model transaction 71. Oh, no, delete from, there's no table transaction, it's purchase. Right? There's our purchase table. My bad. Refresh. And it's gone. Hooray, we can delete. All right. Hey, you got a bonus point command. I love it. That's fun. All right, I think that is everything then from the project requirements. Let's go take a peek, make sure we did all the things. How'd that go for you folks, by the way? So a lot of work, right? I mean, almost more than it sounded like it should have been, just from the description. Maybe? No complaints? It's okay if you complain. Purchases, subtract the appropriate balance, display the error, update the row. All right, yeah, glad it's working, Professor Burp. Yeah, learn to code, that's definitely good. If you try and delete a person who has a purchase, you're going to get one of those database errors. It's a referential integrity error, which is good. The database is going to puke on you. Yeah?
You submit a file.
I screwed up the assignment. If you see that and you tell me, I can change it, but as soon as someone submits, it won't let me change it anymore. So it got stuck because one of you turned it in without telling me I was stupid, which, sure, thank you. Usually it's just a text submission, so just give it any file, I'll ignore it. Sorry for that. It's a weird default. Like, I guess most people use this for file upload stuff. Like you upload English papers or stuff instead of like text boxes, so I guess that's fine. I got someone sent a picture of Rafiki giving me a thumbs up. I like it. I like it. Yeah, I've gotten someone like told me one time, oh, it looks like you did this again, because it was like I've forgotten more than once. They're like, so here's a picture of my cat. Okay. Nice. The whole thing? Did it let you upload it? Nice. I'd watch that. Right. So we got those, purchase page. Oh, we did want to include an option to search by user ID. I forgot. So we got to add that. So we need a search by user ID on our purchase page. So that's the transaction. I think we did that right in our list stock view. We added a... Didn't we add that in here? No, list person. We added a little form for find, didn't we? Yeah. Let's do that. We'll add the form in the list. I'm not sure I should like being an in list, but like anytime you use list, it'll give you the option to filter. Might make sense. We'll list transactions then. We want a form for search by person ID. I guess just person ID. We're going to send it to transaction, PHP with a get here. This will be person ID. We'll send it person ID. Okay, so then our controller for transaction needs to look for that person ID like we did with people. Let's go see if we can find a last name, just a person ID. Okay, sure, we'll grab that. We'll grab a person ID if we're listing here. I will pass that person ID right to our list transactions. We'll go to our transactions controller. We'll have a person ID here, and then we can check, hey, if person ID equals 0, right? If it was invalid, we got a regular query, right? If it wasn't, then I can do my query the query and the binding, right? So select star from purchase where person ID equals : person ID. And we can go bind in our bind by purchase ID. Person ID, there we go. We can go bind in the person ID. We'll still find all the transactions, do the fetch all, everything else should be the same. We're just saying, okay, if you give me 0 because it validated to nothing, which if you didn't pass it, it'll validate to nothing. Right? It's not just like an empty string. We dealt with strings with IDs. If it's 0, we'll just give you everything. Otherwise, we'll give you just where they match the person. All right, so search by person ID. Let's find all transactions for person 1. Uh-oh. Person ID equals 1. Oops, let's check the controller here. I was getting that out of post. We were not posting that. That's a get. Right, I'm sending that one through get, not a post. Refresh that. And there we go. Now we get person 1, person 2, person 1. Want everybody. I can send it with nothing. Okay, so a quick little filter. Now this add transaction, we could have the person dropdown, right? We had this manage people with our dropdowns here. We could go use that same dropdown if we wanted, right? Because we already know how to include that dropdown, the person selector. Right? Now, the problem, though, is we need to go find all the people. So we can do a list people first, and then we can include this if we want. It's up to us. So in our transaction controller, we could go get a list of people on our list and have that available. Right? So we can include that model. So we can include the model's person, PHP. We say people guess, because we're going to list, otherwise, I think it's okay. People equal list people, list person, given nothing, right? We have to give it something, so we just give it an empty string to list people. And then in our view for it, like in our person view, we used this selector instead. We can do that instead of person ID. So we come back to our transaction view. Instead of person ID, we can use the little dropdown here. Instead of person ID, we can use the little dropdown here. Right? And delete, we didn't need it, so it should be fine here. Let's give that a run. So now I can pick from my people who we're adding when we're doing our updates and deletes. Now the problem is, like, it's not matching whatever ID. So like it's always defaulting to person number 1. So I might end up getting lots of stocks. Maybe it doesn't make sense for update. Maybe it only makes sense for add. I don't know. Up to you. But just so fun, like we can add in these other selectors as we want. Lots of other places as we build these out. And then this is much nicer than having an ID anyway, though, right? When you go and add a stock, you can just say whose it was. All right, well, that took up most of the beginning portion here. Thankfully, the new topic stuff will be relatively quick, and then we can move on to project number 3. All right, thoughts, questions, or concerns before we go take a break? Stretch, get some Coke. I've had like a pot and a half of coffee, but I definitely need some more Coke. So, all right, cool. Let me put on some more music. We'll go on break, say about 10 minutes or so, and we'll come back. Let's see, that puts us at, what, 7:46 p.m. for break, and we'll go from there. Hey, welcome back. Holy cow, JH Kruger, thanks for coming on by with your friends on Twitch. We were out on a little break here, just finished up our class project. So now we got to talk about some new stuff. Hope you folks are fond of PHP. Let's see what we got here. Alrighty. So arrays are relatively straightforward for us, right? Probably familiar with using arrays, although I hear the amount of coverage you actually spend talking about arrays in the first programming course in Java does vary. So if I'm saying arrays are simple and you've heard all about them, you don't need to spend a lot of time on them, and that's not the case, please do shout at me. Happy to spend a little bit more time looking at them with you, but I don't want to spend a bunch of time if it's not helpful, right? That's sort of the idea there. So if it's not anything that you need to review a lot, we don't need to worry too much about it, other than how do we make them and how do we add values to them, essentially. So if we take a look at, I don't think there's anything we want to add in here that's an array. Probably not. Now, let's do a new project. So let's do our PHP project. We haven't done one of these in a while anyway. It's probably good. I'm going to put it in our GitHub directory for the course. Oh, I'm going to commit all that other stuff too. I'm thinking of GitHub. I'll commit this out for you here. Put it in 2454. We're going to call this one, I don't know, is it arrays and objects. I'm going to put it in a folder inside of the repo there, arrays and object. Nope. Goodness. Come on. That was a bad copy paste. Let me try that again, sorry. 2454. Hey, thanks for following along. We've got arrays and objects. Put it in a folder named arrays and objects. Arrays and objects. Okay. Next, now we want to copy them to XAMPP htdocs, and we're going to put this in arrays and objects. Here, and the path then, right? So again, I've got port 5080, colon 5080. Localhost, arrays and objects. Right, I've got to change my port number. If you didn't, that's fine. Oh my goodness. Friends, I am drawing a big old blank. Why am I drawing such a big blank? Localhost, colon 5080. That's where it goes, not in the HTTP side. Eric's tired. There's the 5080. This is why it's nice. It validates it. Tells you you're being dumb. Okay, so we'll put it in arrays and objects. We don't need any frameworks right now, and we're good to finish. All right, so a basic PHP array, like if we wanted to build our own, so let's do, I don't know, list of foods, because I'm hungry right now. Could definitely go for some dinner. Equals an array. So we use the array keyword here, and then in the sub parentheses, we can give it values if we want. Or we can just go make an array. Now, what's a little bit funky with this syntax is I can then go say list of foods, add an index here, and go set a value. I don't need to necessarily give it the value initially, which is kind of weird. Right? So generally, it's better to just set the values if we know what they are. That's a much more common syntax than just trying to say, oh, hey, this index, go get a value here. So what kind of food sounds good tonight? What are you hungry for? Burrito? 2 R's? Burrito? All right. What else sounds good? Lasagna. Lasagna, right? Isn't that? You guys are giving me all the ones that are hard to spell. Are you doing this on purpose? What? How about ice cream? Ice cream's easy to spell. I could go for ice cream. Anything else sound good? We have more Coke. That's what we live on. Bologna. All right, yeah. Does your bologna have a first name? That what it is. Now, with an array, right, we could then go loop over it like we've already done to print things out, if you want. Right, easy enough for us to go loop over the array and print it all out. Or if you want just a quick and dirty way of getting the values printed, there's a print R command. You give it list of foods. Let's give it a run. Make sure you use a better browser here. We're going to print out kind of a weird print. Like, I don't know why that would be super helpful to print them all out. It's not going to be all that useful for what we're doing, right? But you can if you wanted. Right? It's an option. Right? Typically we get at things by value, right? By index. That's how we typically get these out. So let's do another line break. We'll come on down. Add a PHP block. PHP. So other things we could do, that if we wanted to get out particular values, we can just do the substitution. And we can say, hey, echo in here, and then how about the I'm hungry for, and say in my set of parentheses here, or curly braces here, remember we can do these substitutions when we echo, instead of trying to do like smush things in and all sorts of good stuff. It's a foods, a list of foods, right? List of foods at index, let's pick 3. Right, we can echo out, we'll get the third, nope, not the third item, the third index, right? Remember, indexes are always 0 based, so 0, 1, 2, 3. Looks like it's Coke for dinner again tonight. I hear if you eat a lot of that, though, you're not very hungry. Oh, wait, that's, sorry. They still do, like, the stupid drug prevention classes in high school? And the one example they give on Coke is like, hey, these college students who really want to cram and study really hard are going to go do Coke so they can stay up all night and study. And that was the example they gave. It's like, why you don't want to do this? And that was the example? Like, hey, all your friends are going to do Coke so you can study? Okay. Which is legal now. So, like, all of that, the whole... Who knew? It's like asking me where my shin is. It's down right below the knee. Are you telling dad jokes in chat? Nice. That's awesome. So you can do funny things with arrays because they are flexible, right? You get this cool command here called unset. So unset is going to remove the item here. So let's say we need to go remove list of foods index of 3. Right? And then let's just print it again here. So they're not like a regular array in Java where it's immutable and like unchangeable, unsizable. They're flexible. There's the semicolon that I'm missing. There we go. They're a little bit more flexible, which is nice. So we can do some fun things with them. So now it's gone. So here's index 0, index 1, index 2, index 4. So we still have something in index 3, but the value is null. So that's not all that helpful because now we have a gap. Right? It removed it, but it's still there. There's a gap. So the next thing we can do is we can just reset list of foods to use this array values function and say, okay, put it back to the values that come out of list of foods. Essentially recreating it without the gap. So array values will give you all of the values that are not null here. Remember, null's the bad thing that happens. Null references are ugly. Creates a whole separate one, unfortunately. Yeah, so it's not the fastest thing in the world, but, you know, it'll get the job done. I think we need some more BRs here. BR. And this all in code blocks feels so ugly now after like our MVC stuff we were doing. But it's okay. And now we see, hey, it fixed the index for us, right? When we did the array values. That was all. Okay, we've done our for loops. right? Going over arrays. Yeah, sure. You can count the values that are in an array if you want. You can like say how many items are in it. So you can say there are count. Oops. Why is that not working for me? Echoing. Why is it not subbing? Count. List of foods. Maybe it's not going to do a straight sub for me. That's a bummer. Foods. You are hungry for. There goes a quick little count of it. Yep. That's lame. All right, fine. We'll append in count list of foods. Append in you are hungry for. Do it the old-fashioned way of appending instead of being able to do our subs. And there are 4 foods you're hungry for. Right, so count's handy. Right, just like the length of an array, you can find out how many items are in it, which is cool. If you do have gaps in your array and you don't want to have to do this array values thing, you can check to see if something's been set, which is kind of nice. So if you unset something, you can check, hey, if it's set, before you go loop over it and hit a null reference exception. So when we go unset something, it's going to be a little ugly if you're trying to do one of these for loops, right? We say for food, list of foods as food. We're to echo er food. Let me just add a bunch of foods here without checking to see. Dollar. There we go. Nope. Concatenation. Oh, I can just put it in here, right? Food. Dollar food. There we go. That's prettier. We'll go echo out our list of foods. Look, all right, cool. We're getting our foods. Didn't we unset? And it just skipped it. Oh yeah, the for each loop is going to skip it for us. If you use index values, so for I equals 0, 0, I is less than the count of list of foods, I plus plus. And I prefer index, but that's okay. I'll go fix it because that makes me happier than I. Just for reasons. Like, I don't know. People do I's and then J's in their nested loops, and my I's just cross because I can never tell the difference between an I and a J. So I'm always partially using index because I like that I can actually read, and my I's don't cross. All right, so then if we were to do that one, we were to echo out the food given list of foods at index of index. Right? Let's give that one a run. Is that one echoing out too? Didn't we unset? Oh no, here we go. Yep. Undefined array key, key 3. So that's ugly, right? You don't want that showing up. So because we unset it, it was gone, and it's no good. So if you're looping through by index, you need to check first. We can check if is set the list of foods at index. And if it is set, then we can print it, right? The for each loop automatically skips those for us, which is nice. Learn to code, you need another dad joke? You got it. You got it here. We'll tell some more jokes. So my wife is quite fond of audiobooks. They're nice to listen to, right? Just kind of peaceful. And you can kind of have it on in the background. I like to like pay attention really hard, but she just has it on in the background. And I borrowed her audiobook the other day, and I lost it. Now I'm never going to hear the end of it. All right, so unset, right, or is set, we can check to make sure it's not going to crash on us. Right, only going to print the ones that are set. So if an array lets you like take items out of the middle, it does get a little bit ugly. So you just got to be a little bit careful when we're dealing with our arrays here. The other thing you can do with arrays, and this one is really cool, is you can make it be an associative array, which in other languages we call dictionaries, where you have a key and an associated value. That's what we're actually getting back when we do all these database results. It's an associative array, in that we don't say, hey, I want index 0. We said, hey, I want the key or the value associated with this field, right? I said, hey, give me the symbol, right? Look up symbol. So to make one of those by hand, let's see, maybe let's take our list of foods again here. This is, might as well. And we're going to associate the cost of each of these. So we're going to say burrito, and then you give it this really funky arrow, equals greater than? I think that's a greater than. And we'll say, okay, well, what is the associated value with that? So a burrito we can probably get for $1.50, right? And I'm going to bump this down because it's getting long here, and we'll just do one per line. We feel better about ourselves. Okay, so a lasagna that's probably going to cost you like $7.50, right? That ice cream, that's not too bad. Maybe $2.50 Dairy Queen. Coke we get for $1 here. I mean, if you buy them in a big enough pack, right? Or McDonald's sells it for $1, right? And then bologna, I mean, that's like 50 cents here, right? So we're gonna list of foods with prices. How about that? That's why we don't overwrite the other one here. Then, just like we were doing before with the database results, not really knowing how these arrays worked, which I think worked out okay, not having talked about arrays first, because otherwise you just have to wait longer till you can do fun database stuff. We can say the price of something, right? So we can echo the cost of, I don't know, we'll say a Coke is, and then we'll append in here, I'm going to use my list of foods with prices, index of, and you give it the first thing. This is the key and the associated value. So I'm going to say key of Coke. Right, so we can get that out of our associative list. Oh, I didn't add enough BR. So the cost of Coke is $1. Right, we said Coke is $1. Right, so just like we were working with the values in our arrays, the database results, we got stuff out by key, we get them out by key here. Yeah, lots of arrays, those are all fine. Cool. Prints. You can unset, again, if you want. So works the same way, doing our loops, works through, it's fine. So the funny syntax, if you want to loop through all of them in a for each loop, is fun. We say for each. Now it's still, this is my list of foods with prices. We say as, and now I give it key arrow value. Right? What do I want to call the key? Arrow, what do I want to call the value? So we'll say this will be food, arrow, cost. Right, so still the same for as syntax, but we have to give it both things. I want the key and the value, and we still use that arrow syntax, just like we're using when we made one of these here. I think some people call them fat arrows, because there's also the like dash arrow, which is like a skinny arrow or something. People come up with the funniest names for things. And we'll echo out, how about a line break to start, BR, and then we can add in here food, costs, cost. Right, we got to run. And we get a nice little list here, right, with a nice little for each loop. Pretty handy. Yep. You can make arrays do functions, which is fine. Slicing and splicing arrays. So taking a slice is like a chunk of arrays, and of an array, how many of those items do I want? And splicing, taking two arrays and putting them together, are different things we can do with arrays. We're not going to bother spending too much time, again, on arrays. Just know that they exist. If you haven't taken the data structures class yet, 2353, arrays also can act like stacks and queues. So if you don't know what a stack and queue is, don't worry about it. But a stack, very simply, is you put something on, the next thing goes on top, and on top, and on top, and on top. You only ever touch the thing on top. Either add to it or take it off. A queue is like a line, right? Imagine you're British. You queue up at a store. The first person comes in is the first person out the door, or first person getting checked out. That's a queue. So you can work with arrays in PHP as if they were stacks and queues, by using methods for push and pop or shift, all sorts of fun stuff. There's a built-in sum function for an array sum. Given an array of values, it'll sum it for you. You don't even have to do your own for loop. That's handy. Searching for arrays, you can check if something is in the array. Hey, Snakeblood, thanks for coming on by and subscribing again. What a hero, donating to the Student Scholarship Fund over the University of Michigan Dearborn. That's awesome. Which, by the way, they're working hard. They want more students because they're not necessarily near OCC. So in the works is a good transfer agreement. They currently transfer some classes, but there's not like, hey, this is a good plan, to get from one program to another. So that's all in the works. If you do want to continue on and get a bachelor's degree somewhere. Yeah, all those coffee emotes are fantastic. Big fan of those. So you can search for arrays. You can find out how many times something shows up with an occurrence. Tons of things about arrays. We don't need to do too much of this. You can have an array of arrays, right? We did that already with our database results. It's an array of the associative array. Folks did really well with that. But again, we didn't have to do it by hand, so maybe that was fine. All right, cool. We'll call that good for chapter 11. A lot of stuff about it, but not, nothing too crazy, I think. Again, let me know if that's oversimplifying it and if it is actually crazy. All right, functions we already know how to do. I'm not going to spend much more time on the functions chapter, but I want to get to objects. And then we'll call that a night for the new stuff. I know it's already been a little while here. So let's talk about objects. These objects are phenomenal. Again, you don't have to use object-oriented programming. We were doing it a little bit already, right? We were using that PDO class for our database stuff, but everything else was just kind of straight code and functions, nothing necessarily object-oriented. But if you want to, you can build your own class. So we can add a class here. Let's add a new PHP file. We'll call this food because I'm still hungry. So in here, we're going to say, hey, I want a class. I'm going to call it food instead of curly braces, just like Java. We have private values, we have public values. And the good object-oriented principle is we're going to hide away all the values, make everything private, and give you public methods for things you should be able to do. Right, so we're going to say, hey, I have a private name, dollar name, and I have a private dollar cost, and I have some methods. So I want a public function get name, probably underscores, right? Get name. I think. You can just get name. Sure. We can return name. Public function get cost returns cost. Right? Gets are easy. Oh, dollar cost. And sets, right? Public function set name given a name, right? Now, you still have the this pointer. So I don't know when you did 1500, if they said if you have two variables of the same name, the one that is your class level, your instance variable, is the this value of it. So we say this skinny arrow, right? I think that we'll call these skinny arrows, we'll call the equals arrows fat arrows, right? If that makes sense. So this name equals the dollar name argument name here. I'm sorry, so not the dollar sign. There we go. So this name, because we already did the dollar here. We're saying this instance here, my name argument. And notice when I click name here, it highlights name and name. It's saying this is it. When you click name here, it highlights the one up here. It says it is this one. So this name is name. And then get name, this arrow name. You got to do it all the time, which at least they're consistent. And then get cost, this arrow cost. That's why he was yelling at me. Arrow cost, dollar this. So it's always this instance here equals the name and a public function for set cost given a dollar cost. My dollar this cost equals the dollar cost. The next thing you can do, right, is the constructor. So the constructor looks a little funny. It's public function underscore construct. So this double underscore means it's a special magic method. Just kind of happens here, but we can say, okay, sure, I can write a constructor and just leave it all blank, or I can say, okay, hey, you need to give me a name and you need to give me a cost. And then again, if you have set methods, I'm fond of using set methods, right? Because maybe you did some sanity checking, like maybe we could say, hey, if my dollar cost is greater than or equal to 0, or greater than 0, how about that? If it's greater than 0, then we'll take your cost. Like, we're not going to let you accidentally fudge this and give me a negative number, because then I'm giving people money for buying my stuff, right? Else, I mean, maybe we'll just set this cost to 0. 0 is not great, but at least you won't be negative, right? We're not going to give away money. So if you have this sort of logic in your sets, you want to call your set methods, right? And again, we're doing this dollar thing. We're going to use it all the time. It's this instance, set cost given the cost. It might as well, semicolon there. It might as well do this set name. I mean, it's not gaining us anything here. We're not doing any sanity checking with name, but we got the set method, might as well use it, right? So our constructor then is the double underscore construct. It's our constructor for making an instance of an object. So if I want to make an instance of food here, it's yelling at me that this should be uppercase food here. Food. That'll stop yelling at me now, right? There we go. Okay, stop yelling at me. Now I have an instance of food. I can go use this class for food. Right? Yep.
Also, the open-loaded constructor that just has no arguments and sets everything to default values.
Yeah, I think we can add a second one. Function. Honestly, it's been a while since I tried struct. No, it's not letting us do another. Struct has already been declared. So if you give me nothing, right? Like we're not grabbing anything here, I guess. Let's see. There's our constructors. Yeah. Oh, okay. So if you want to add default values here, we can say, hey, it equals null, or it equals 0 here. So these are default arguments. I think you talked about these when you talked about methods in Java with default arguments. Okay, good. So this way, if the parameter is provided, we'll use the value. If you don't provide the parameter, then we get this default value here. Don't remember. Sometimes we talk about that in 1500. Sometimes we skip it. I think for sure we hit it in 2151. Yeah, so we'll leave them as required if you don't mind. Probably better. Okay. Now we want to go use our class here to go do something. Way too many of these here. There we go. So to make one, right, and make a food, then instead of maybe this associative list of things, we could make a food, or we could have an array of instances of food if we wanted. Sure, equals new food. Given the name. Now I really want it like a hot dog. And the cost. Hot dogs are cheap, right? That's like $1.50 at Speedway. Surprisingly decent hot dogs for gas station food. Like they work hard at their cafe to try and get that little bit of extra revenue. So now I have a food. I've got a hot dog. Food, arrow, what do I want? So again, we're still using that skinny arrow. So if you're dealing with objects, right, just like we did with our PDO stuff a while back, where's our database? Here. No, we just did a new PDO. We did, in the model, when we used it, we said, hey, here's my object, prepare. That's the prepare method we're calling, function we're calling, of that database object we created with the new syntax. That's why we were using those skinny arrows before. Right? We prepared, we did the binds, all the skinny arrow stuff. Okay? Oh, goodness, too many files are open. Go back to this one. All right, so food get cost. I can get the cost back out, right? And I can assign that somewhere if I wanted. Cost equals food get cost. Sure. Right, that sort of thing. We can loop through it. All right, we don't need to go. Oh, that's a weird tickle. Sorry, let's sneak some Coke in here real quick. All right, that's better. So lots of other cool things we can do with classes. We're not going to go super duper deep into them. I mean, do check out the chapter. Mainly, just know how to go look things up, because there's so many different things we can do. We don't want to spend that much time on all these class things here with constants and other values and statics and things. I think most of it's going to transfer well from Java land, and you've got that background, so we don't need to do everything in PHP here. I think we're in pretty good shape here. Yeah, you can do copies and things. That's all fine. You can do inheritance, right, in PHP. So you can make the parent class and have a child class inherit from it, or a superclass and a subclass. You can do all that just the same if you want. And it uses the extends keyword. It's all fine. And yeah, this chapter is big. I'm sorry. We don't do too much of it. It has the same idea. You can have private values. You can have protected values. If your attribute is protected, your subclasses have access to it. If it's private, only you have access to it. You can have abstract classes. That's probably another 2151 topic. Yep. Goodness. Okay. I think the basics are enough for now. We don't need to go too deep. You folks still with me? I know it's getting late. All right. Should we talk about the next project? Okay. Pull up D2L here. I don't think I made any changes. We'll close that one here. We're going to do project 3. All right, again, we got 2 weeks for this one by 6 p.m. So I think this one probably another 15 points. I don't want it to be as large, so like the same worth points as project 2. This in the projects category here. Because I know we also have the midterm coming up too, so I don't want it to be anything too crazy here. But we need to practice using arrays and using objects and functions and those sorts of things. So my thought for this then, and you can tell me if you hate it or not, is we're going to take project 2 and we're going to convert it to use classes. So we'll have a class for stock, we'll have a class for person, we'll have a class for transaction or purchase, with all the public methods and or private attributes and public methods for storing our data back and forth. So there's a little bit of mapping that has to happen where you can take an object and persist it to the database, save it to the database. But that way, instead of all of these update methods that we have in here, right? If you want to go update something, you don't have to give it all the different values. You just update, you give it, here's an instance of the object. Here's a transaction object. It already has properties for ID, symbol, person ID, quantity, purchase price, and date and time. It's got all those set up for you. So all of our methods then become a little easier in the models because we're just saying, hey, give me an instance of the class, right? When you go add, just give me an instance of the class. I don't care if the ID is set. Right? So it's going to take a little bit of changing here, but it's going to shift the way that we approach it instead of being just this functional approach to an object-oriented approach. If you want to delete a transaction, give me the transaction object. Right? I can get the ID out of it. Great. You don't even have to set the rest of the properties, but as long as you've got an ID property set, or an attribute set, and I can get ID off of it, I can go delete it. Does that make sense? Does that sound too terrible? Seems doable? Okay. So let's do that. So we're going to update the stock program to use classes. So all the model, all the database model functions should accept an instance of the class instead of a list of attributes. And that's sort of the idea here. So we're going to build and use classes then. Each of all of our for each loops, all the for each loops should use a list of, or an array, right? An array of classes, not the database. So we're going to take our database results and we're going to build out, here, turn it into an instance of the class. turn it into an instance of the class. We can add it to an array. So you're going to want, so you'll have the stock class, Vivanzo, that has all the methods for stock, right? So we'll use those arrays of classes, not the straight database objects. So to do that, right, let's take a look at person. You want me to do person like I did for the other project? Okay, I'll finish writing this. I think we got that there. And I'll change it from file submission this time to text submission. You submit the feedback URL, feedback pull request URL. Need the new GitHub Classroom link. Let me give you one of those. What? What happened? Didn't I log in? Oh, goodness, what button did I push? Not new classroom. No. I'm trying to go too quick here. I'm sorry. Here we go. New assignment. New project 3. So CIS 2454, fall 2021. Project 3. This will be our Java template. Weird, it was blanking out. Pull requests. All right, and here's our link. Cool. All right, I'll just save that for now. So let's go and look at how we could modify this then with person. So we still have this person, all these functions here to interact with the database here. But really what we want now is a person class, and we want this to work with it. So I can throw the class right in here. I can have a class for person. Right, I might do lowercase p person, just so it doesn't yell at me. Is that wrong? It's probably wrong, but that's okay. All right, I'll leave it uppercase. We'll let it yell. So we're going to have private attributes, right, for person. We're going to have a private ID. We have a private first name. We're going to have a private last name. And we're going to have a private balance. Balance. Right? We got all of our attributes here. Then we need gets and sets, right? So this insert code should do it for us here. We can do a getter for all of them. And look at that, it writes it for us. NetBeans is full of lovely shortcuts here. And insert code for setters. This will cut down on some of the tediousness for you, at least here, for sets. Okay? And then we can make a constructor. Insert code, constructor. Let's take, ID should be optional for constructor, because we don't necessarily know what it is when we make a new person to persist. We're only knowing what the ID is when we get it out of the database. Right? Once we add it to the database, we'll get an ID. For a new person, if I want to make a person object and hand it to the add person function, we don't have that. Right? So balance, and then so we could add in here as the last one ID and default it to 0. Right? If we don't get an ID, that's fine. So then this ID equals the ID. Sure. We could do that. So the thing is, you can't have these optional parameters first. Right? It's going to be really confused because all of our parameters have been positional. You give it the first thing, matches the first thing. The second thing matches the second thing. So if you have something that's optional and you don't give it, does that mean the first thing is the first name? Right? Like, so again, these always have to go at the end. Hopefully that was made sense already. Cool, so we'll make it optional. I like that. All right, so now we've got person here. This is for a single person, right? And then our list person, again, we need to go convert these from what we get back from the database. So we're not going to give them back the straight database objects anymore. We're going to make a bunch of people, right? A bunch of instances of the person class out of this data. And that way we can interact with things as objects. We like objects because they're easy to interact with. They have methods and they can do things, right? So this will be a little bit fun here. So getting, setting, balance, those sorts of things. Maybe we even want a method for public function, like add or subtract money, change money, or I don't know, what do we have, like add money before? Add money. That will take some amount of money. That will take this balance arrow balance plus equals the money. Right? We could write our own methods then, right, to interact with this class. So that way when I go and try and like add money for somebody, I don't have to say, okay, do this at the database. Right? I can take my instance of the person class, call the add money function, and then say, hey, database, go update this person, please. So it's going to change a little bit of the workflow that we have here. So we got our person class then. So I don't think we need any other attributes at the moment here. So that ought to do it here. And now, so for list, we wanted to convert these results here to people. So we probably want a helper method to do that sort of thing, right? So we can do that. So we can add a helper method, another function here. Let's, I don't know, how about function? How about convert from DB to object? Given a person row, right? Maybe? So for a single row, right, is a row of the table with all those key value pairs that we have, and return those into a person object. So really, it's like a one-liner. We can just we'll make a new person first. We'll have person equals a new person, and then we can give it all of these attributes here. Right. Well, the person row, right, has the index key of first name. Right, and we have the person row key of last name. Right, and let me bump these down, maybe do person this way. Person row key of the balance. And then the person row key of the index, or ID, sorry, the ID. Right, that makes a person, and I can return person. Sort of doing our own mapping. So we want to go from database to object. Okay, so then in our method here, before we return, I need to take all of my people results, loop through it, make people objects, and add them to my array. Right, so I need to make a, this is my, we'll say people, or how about person list equals an array. So we have a person list. And then I want to loop through people. So I'm going to say for each, and again, we said people as person. We're going to loop through this people collection that we have here as person. And we can hand each individual person row. Maybe we want to call that person row. How about person row? I like that. Because that way it's going to match too. So we can take our person list. And we want to add to it. Was it $? There we go. Add, push. My goodness, where was it here? Just had that chapter. Push. Just push. Really should recall that better. We want to push what we get back from, right? Our helper method was, what do we call it here? Convert. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do it in 2 steps. So we'll make a person equals what we get back from convert given the person row. And then we'll add the person to our list. I think it's push. Why am I not coming up with that? I think that'll add it all in. So it adds them all, and then we can return the person list when we're done. Should be the list of people. So then our view, right, that's going to have the list of people needs to change. So it's going to take a little bit of modifications, but that's okay. So our list person view, then, right, we're not going to say just get the person key of this. Right? It's going to be person get ID. Right? Each person that we're calling the functions on, so we have get first name, skinny arrow, get first name. Person, skinny arrow, get last name, and person get balance. Again, just moving us a little bit more towards that object-oriented approach, and then we'll see some gains when we start writing these methods. Like, and we can interact, like we can add money, and then we can just update real quick. It's going to make life a little bit easier for us. Okay, So that's list person. That's our person model. At the returning that person list. I think that ought to work for us for now. Again, we can convert more later as we go. Let's give that a try. We manage people. Oh! Not push. Okay, my goodness. PHP array add item. Add to an array. Push, right? I'm missing. There's another word I'm missing. Array push. Array push. Sure. And that's the end of the array. Where's that one? Let's start at the end. Yeah. That's what it already was already. Lame. All right, sorry. So it's array push. My array, and then the item. My person list, person. Push person onto the end. Manage people. Person get first name. What do we call it here? Isn't it get first name? First underscore name. Why? Why? All right, that's some ugly looking syntax. Okay, because we named them that way instead of the other way around. Okay, that's our fault. We weren't following the regular camel casing. Let's put those back. Last name, first name. Get first name. Get last name. Okay. Make those look a little prettier. There we go. So now, great. Okay, sure. Our update, our drop-down list is not working. We have to fix that. Right, but we can see our regular list here is working. Right, so let's go fix our person selector then. So it's not person ID, right? It's person arrow, skinny arrow, get ID. Here, and it's not person first name, it's person skinny arrow, get first name. Appended in there with person arrow, get last name. Get last name. Okay, so our selector should work. There we go. Now our selector works again. At least I think it works. So transfer from a person's balance now. Let's look at this. This is our big gain that we're really going to get from object-oriented programming. When we want to go transfer from someone's balance here, where'd that one even go? Delete. Oh, that's transactions. My goodness. People. Add, transfer. So here's the transfer method. Okay. We have an ID, so we need to go get that person's ID out. So in our person model, let's go fix up the individual. We had a find person, didn't we? Find person? Yeah, let's do that. So let's take this result, and we'll get a... We can even just rechange it, right? Person. We don't want to do that. That's ugly. But we can. Convert given person. Close the cursor. Return person. Okay. If you'd only use one assigned, we assigned it twice to accidentally overwrite. Yeah. All right. We could just convert this then in the statement fetch. We could do that. Is that prettier? Is that better? Instead of converting person again? All right, this feels a little cleaner. So we'll take the DB result, turn it into the object, return the person, back when we find person. So then in our person controller, the add money function here, right, is going to be different. We don't need to just call an add money function. We can go get the person out. So we can have person equals find person by the ID. Right, oh yeah, we'll find out whether we're going to add or withdraw first, right? Then I can take person and I can call the function add money. And I can give it that amount. Then I don't need to have a separate add money method here. What I can do is I can call the update person method, given the person. We'll header them back. So again, we don't actually have update person working yet for that. But we can go make the single method for update person. We'll just take a person object. You can do whatever you want to it. We're going to go update it. So in our person model, then update person, instead of taking all these values, then we'll take a person here. And we just bind off of, now it's person, get first name. First name, get last name, parentheses, there we go, function call. Get balance, and get ID. Get ID, get balance, get last name. So because we're dealing with objects now, I can just call these existing methods that take an object and they'll go and update it in the database level for me. I don't need to have all this extra stuff here now for how do I add money directly as its own database level thing. The database can just, hey, you give me an object, I'm going to go take it. Why do we have add? Oh, that's right. Add person then should take a person object. We're going to make an object first. And we'll do the same binding thing here. We'll do these 3 for add. Okay, so our model then, this should be a person object too. So it's person get ID. We'll get the ID out. So all of them are going to interact with objects instead of just dealing with here's a bunch of attributes. Right, we can kind of take advantage of that. Right, list person by last name. Yeah, we did that. We fixed that up, right? Because we converted. Good. That one's good. All right, so now in our controller, we need to go use all those person objects. So we did for transfer, right? We used a person object. We got the person. We called update. For add, right, we're going to add a person. So we need to make a new person object first. So we have a person, there's a new person, given the last name, the first name, and the balance. And I can just give you then that person instead of giving you all the attributes. The other really nice thing about this is you ever go and change your class, right? We can add another attribute. None of this stuff is necessarily going to break unless we change the constructor. And then again, it's relatively easy to go and add something else here. If we were to add that attribute to the table behind the scenes and then what would we have to go change if we wanted to say like, hey, let's go change the stock table, let's go add a volume or something like that attribute. All of our things would have to go and change because all of them were passing around attributes. So every method would have to take the extra attribute, every update would have to take the attribute, every add would have to take the attribute. Now we're just dealing with a person class. We're still passing a class. Right? None of the functions themselves need to change unless we need to set that field somewhere. So it's going to minimize the amount of maintenance we have to do if we ever want to change our program. So I keep sliding way back because chair's at a really weird height. Oh, I think it hurts. That's why my back has still been sore. Let's make a new person. Again, for delete, then we'll make a new person. And this one's a little bit silly, I guess, because we don't know what the other names are, but we can have person equals a new person. We don't really care what the first name is. We don't really care what the last name is. We don't care what the balance is. But we do care about the ID. So this one might be a little bit funny. Maybe deleting by ID was fine, but we'll just go to the extreme. Okay, so care about first name, last name, balance, just the ID. Right, but those were required fields anyway, so we had to give them. So sure, we can delete now by person. And all the lists, all right, so that should make person work here then. Let's see, can we search? All right, we'll try Smith. Okay, searching worked, good. How about adding person? Let's make sure we can add. Let's add Billy, Bob. Billy Bob is rich. Billy Bob has a lot of money. Okay, Billy Bob has a lot of money. Great. Let's update Billy Bob. Oh, Bob Billy. Oh, did I do them backwards? Sorry. Okay, sure. Well, let's fix that. Let's put his first name back to Billy and his last name back to Bob. And let's say he lost a bunch of money. Uh-oh. Call the member function, get first name. People, line 31. Are people controller, line 31. People, line 31. Update person, last name, first name. Am I backwards? What's the person class want? First name, last name, balance. So I should do first name first. That's what it was. I did do the names right, didn't I? Maybe I did them backwards. So I need first name, then last name. So it should be first name, last name, balance. We were doing that before when we added first name, last name, balance. Yep, first name, last name, balance. Okay. So I had switched around. That was the missed here. But what was the error? Uncaught error, call to member function, get first name on int. An integer at person line 121. Person, is that the person model, line 121? Is that what it was? 121, person, get first name. Update person. We gave it an integer? Where do we call update person? Not here. Update person. What else do we call update person? Oh, we didn't give it... I didn't actually fix update. Nope, I didn't do that. There, that's always the problem. So person is a new person. Given the first name, the last name, the balance, and the ID. That's what it was. Okay. Let's go see if we can fix up Billy Bob. Let's refresh here. Okay, we got Bob Billy. Let's go fix him back to Billy Bob. 1,000. There we go. Now we got Billy Bob. Life is good there. Let's go. Okay, go delete poor Billy Bob. Or let's transfer, right? Make sure we can transfer Billy Bob. Let's go withdraw. He's going to get out of here, so let's withdraw his money. And now he's got 0 left. Great. Let's go delete Billy Bob. Delete. Great, he's gone. Poor Billy Bob. Okay, so we're converting over to using the classes here with our methods to make life easier. Now, like with transaction, we can do better things when we go add our transaction, right? Oh, we did that in the controller, our transactions controller. Transactions controller. When we added a transaction, we did a bunch of things up here, right? We found it, we got the person, and then we had to do add money, and do add transaction. I can just get the person object. I can check their balance, right? With the, instead of getting person by person ID, I can get a object then that is person, and I can get their balance out. And then I can change their balance, right, with the add money, change the balance, and then I can update them in a single person. Right, I think yeah, so we don't have that add money function anymore. We got rid of it, right? All we have is update person, right? So we're going to create the update the object and then call update and send the object back to the database. So a lot of this is sort of the idea that when we work with the database, it's easier for us to give objects to this middle layer here. This is our layer that is interacting with the database for us. Because that way, everywhere else in code, we get to work with objects. And objects are generally a little easier. We can add functionality to them. They can be smart. We can add methods to do all sorts of things that we don't have to do, right, by hand at the database level. Generally, will save you a little bit of time. It's a good idea. There's lots of, they're called object relational mappers, ORMs. There's lots of these things out there, depending on what language you work in, to do this sort of mapping for you. It's a bit of a pain, right, as you can see, to take an object and go and update it, add an object, this sort of thing. But it's a great way so that in code, then, we can work with objects. Because generally, we think of objects as being superior, because that's how we think about things in the real world, right? When you deal with, hey, this is a phone, right? We know that my phone has its own set of attributes, your phone has its own set of attributes, but we know it's a phone. Phones have their public methods, the public functions, the things that they do, those sorts of things. All right, so let's go make sure we get all the points out here then. So for 15 points, let's do, because I already did person for you. I'll go get that committed. So 2454. This one added the person class. So it's not actually going to work yet because we haven't fixed the rest of it. Oh, I didn't commit earlier. Bummer. Stock program v3. I should have committed earlier so we could have seen exactly what changed for person. I'm sorry. I don't really want to undo everything, so we're just going to pretend and push. So some of these other things will need to be fixed, right? Like there is no add money method function, so we can go fix some of those up. That makes sense? All right, so we got to deal with transactions. We have to deal with stock. We're going to go add that rubric here for project 3. 3. So this is missing. 0 points for being missing. If it's complete. Let's just say 5 points here, and we'll just say all of stock. The controller, model, and views are updated to work with stock objects. Right. Same thing with the transaction. Controller, model, views updated to work with objects. Or purchase, I guess. I don't know if you called yours purchase or transaction. Transaction/purchase controller, however we did that there. Okay. Now this one's going to take a little bit more though. So how about we say this transaction deals with the other classes, right? So we'll do 5 more points here for the transactions, controller, and model. Use the person and stock classes. Like so, instead of just dealing with how would you convert these updates, right? So I don't just want to do the same method here for find stock, get back a stock database row. I want to use the actual objects here in this method. Like technically, we wouldn't have to, right? If we still had all the other methods out there, we're going to try and turn these all, do everything object oriented. We'll go full steam. Does that make sense? Okay, so that'll be the 15 points there. This overall score thing drives me nuts every time. All right. Yeah, overall score. Cool. We got the rest of the night to get working on this. If you want, we'll have some time next week. It's not going to take us all night to wrap up the security, basic authentication in PHP, and then installing the Tomcat tools will take a little bit of time. It's not too bad. There's a couple things we need to change depending on what version of Java you have installed. If you use the OpenJDK, like you might have done, depending on who you took 1500 with, you have to change a couple settings instead of using the Oracle one. It's not bad, I promise. And then we get to feel good about sticking it to Oracle and not buying into their whole license program thing. So, reasons. Cool. All right, I'll get working on grading Project 2. I got all your Project 1 scores in. Overall, did very well on Project 1. I was pretty happy with that. We'll post the next quiz. Again, a couple questions from each chapter. It's your incentive to go and actually read the book. Right? Ideally, they're free points. If you're missing any of those short answers, just let me know. I'm happy to go rescore them for you. Like if you got close enough on the short answers, just let me know and I'll go in and pop in and look. Okay. All right. Thanks, folks. Thanks everybody online. I'll be on Discord if you have questions. Want to hit me there up. We can go from there. Cool.